Daniel Reeve had always loved the quiet parts of the world, the places where the sky felt open and the land seemed to breathe on its own. He worked as a wilderness medic, someone who helped hikers, travelers, and locals whenever nature surprised them with something unexpected. Most days were peaceful. Some days, he didn't meet a single person. That was exactly what he enjoyed: the freedom, the calm, and the steady rhythm of the desert wind. On one warm afternoon, Daniel was exploring a narrow trail near a long stretch of canyon in Arizona. The sun was bright but not harsh, and the sky was so blue it almost looked painted. As he walked, he listened to the soft crunch of earth under his boots and the distant call of a bird somewhere high above. Everything felt still, as if the world was resting. He was about to turn back toward his campsite when he heard something faint. It was not a loud sound, more like a soft breath or a quiet note of pain carried on the wind. At first, he thought he imagined it, but the sound came again delicate, almost like someone trying not to call out too loudly. Daniel stopped and listened closely. His training kicked in. He had learned long ago that even small sounds could mean someone needed help. He moved off the main trail, stepping carefully over rocks and dry grass, trying to follow the direction of the sound. A few minutes later, he reached a shallow dip between two tall canyon walls. The shadows were cooler there, and the air felt slightly heavy. That was when he saw her. A young woman sat on the ground, leaning against a smooth rock surface. She was awake, but clearly in discomfort, holding her leg and breathing slowly. Her long dark hair fell around her shoulders, and her clothes were dusty, as if she had been there for some time. Even though she tried to stay calm, it was clear she needed assistance. Daniel approached slowly so he wouldn't startle her. "Hey," he said gently, keeping his voice soft. "Are you all right? Do you need help?" The woman looked up at him, her eyes steady and alert despite the situation. "I'm okay," she said, though her expression suggested otherwise. "Just slipped. I can't stand right now." Daniel knelt a short distance away, giving her space. "My name is Daniel. I'm a wilderness medic. I can take a look at your leg, if that's all right with you." She hesitated for a moment, studying him with a mixture of caution and relief. Then she nodded. "I'm Ayanna," she said. "Thank you." Daniel smiled softly. "Nice to meet you, Ayanna. I'll be gentle." He checked her leg with careful hands, never rushing and always telling her what he was doing before he did it. The injury was not life-threatening, but it did make it hard for her to walk on her own. It looked like she had slipped on the loose stones near the canyon wall and landed at an uncomfortable angle. "You're going to be okay," Daniel assured her. "You just need support and rest. I'll help you get somewhere safer." Ayanna gave him a thankful look. "I didn't expect anyone to be walking through this part today," she admitted. "Well," Daniel said with a small laugh, "I guess the canyon wanted us to meet." She smiled at that, and her tension seemed to ease a little. The sun was beginning to drift lower, casting soft orange tones across the rocks. Daniel knew they couldn't stay there overnight. The temperature would drop, and Ayanna needed proper care. He helped her sit up straighter, offered water from his pack, and checked the surrounding area for the safest path out. "Can you hold onto my shoulder?" he asked kindly. She nodded and placed her hand lightly on him. Daniel supported most of her weight as they moved slowly through the narrow path. He kept his steps steady, so she didn't have to worry about slipping again. "Were you hiking alone?" he asked as they moved. "Yes," she replied softly. "I come out here sometimes to think. It's peaceful. My family knows I like exploring, but I didn't expect the ground to shift the way it did." Daniel listened with genuine interest. There was a calm strength in her voice, even though she was hurting. "Well, you handled it pretty well," he said. "You stayed calm. That helps more than people realize." Ayanna laughed lightly. "I tried." They continued walking, taking breaks when Ayana needed to catch her breath. Each time they paused, Daniel made sure she was comfortable and not pushing herself too hard. The canyon around them glowed in warm colors as the sun dipped lower, and the wind brushed through their hair like a quiet companion. After more than an hour of slow progress, Daniel realized they might not reach the main trail before sunset. He checked his pack and found enough supplies to keep them safe until help could reach them. "There's a small flat spot up ahead," he told her. Ayana nodded, trusting him now almost completely. Daniel had been patient, respectful, and gentle more than she expected from a stranger she had just met. Once they reached the flat area, Daniel helped her settle on a smooth boulder that was a little warmer from the day's heat. He placed his jacket around her shoulders, in case she grew cold. Then he used his radio to contact the nearest ranger station, letting them know about the situation. They said a team could reach their location, but it would take time. "That's all right," Daniel replied. "We're in a safe spot. We'll wait." When he put the radio away, he sat nearby so Ayana wouldn't feel alone. The canyon softened around them, full of soft shadows and the gentle rustle of the evening breeze. "Thank you," Ayana said quietly after a while. "You didn't have to stop. Many people would have kept walking." Daniel shook his head. "I couldn't do that. If someone needs help, you help them. It's simple." She watched him for a moment, studying his calm expression. "You're very different from most people," she said. He smiled. "I just try to do what feels right." They spent the next hour talking softly, sharing small stories about their families, their interests, and what brought them to the canyon that day. The conversation flowed easily, as if they had known each other longer than a single afternoon. There was a quiet comfort between them, a gentle connection formed not by pressure or expectation but by two people sitting together in the vast quiet of nature. As the first stars appeared above, Daniel noticed Ayana shiver slightly. He moved a little closer, not touching her unless she asked but making sure she stayed warm. She appreciated the gesture and thanked him again. "You have a peaceful way about you," she said. "It makes this whole situation less frightening." "I'm glad," he said softly. "You're doing great. We just have to wait for the team." Ayana closed her eyes for a moment, breathing in the cool air. "My family will be worried," she murmured. "They'll feel better once they know you're safe," Daniel said. "And they'll know soon." Time passed gently, and Daniel stayed alert even while the night grew deeper. He made sure Ayana remained comfortable, adjusting his jacket around her shoulders whenever she shifted. She rested quietly, trusting him in a way that surprised even herself. When the distant sound of voices finally echoed between the canyon walls, Daniel stood and waved in the direction of the search team's lights. Ayana opened her eyes and smiled softly. "They're here," Daniel said. The team reached them quickly, checking on Ayana and preparing to take her back to her community. Before they left, Ayana turned to Daniel. "I'm glad you were the one who found me," she said. Her eyes were warm, sincere, full of unspoken meaning. Daniel felt a gentle tug in his chest. "I'm glad too," he replied. "Take care of yourself. I'll check in tomorrow." And as the team guided her away, Ayana looked back one more time, her gaze lingering on Daniel as if she already knew this moment was only the beginning of something much larger than either of them could understand. The next morning, Daniel woke early with a clear memory of Ayana's calm eyes and the quiet trust she had shown him. He had promised to check on her, and promises were something he always kept. After packing a small bag with a few medical items just in case he drove toward the White Mesa community, following the directions a ranger had given him the night before. The road curved gently through open land, where the hills rolled softly and the morning sun painted everything in warm gold. Daniel felt peaceful, but also a little nervous. He didn't know what kind of welcome he would receive. He had helped Ayana, but he was still a stranger coming into a close-knit community. He hoped they would understand that he simply cared. When he reached the entrance, he was surprised to see several people already waiting. Some stood in small groups, speaking quietly among themselves. Others watched him with curious, thoughtful eyes. The atmosphere was calm, not tense, but it definitely felt meaningful, almost ceremonial. An older man stepped forward first. His posture was steady, and his expression carried years of wisdom. "You must be Daniel," he said, with a warm but unreadable smile. "I am Thomas Nez, Ayana's father. Welcome." Daniel nodded respectfully. "Thank you, sir. I came to see how Ayana is doing." "You did a great kindness," Thomas replied. "My daughter told us everything. Please, come." As they walked deeper into the community, Daniel sensed that something unusual was happening. People greeted him politely, but many of them also held expressions of quiet respect, as if they knew something he didn't. The air felt thick with expectation, though nothing uncomfortable. Thomas led him to a modest home with a soft blue door. Ayana sat outside on a blanket, her leg wrapped gently. She looked up when she heard Daniel approach, and a warm smile spread across her face. "You came," she said softly. "Of course," Daniel replied, returning her smile. "How are you feeling?" "A little sore," she admitted. Daniel knelt a short distance away and checked her leg without touching unless she agreed. The swelling had gone down, and the injury looked manageable. "You're healing well," he said. "Just don't push yourself too fast." Ayana nodded, but she seemed distracted not by pain, but by something else. She kept glancing toward a group of elders standing nearby, watching Daniel with calm interest. He followed her gaze, and the question formed naturally. "Is everything all right?" he asked quietly. Ayana exhaled slowly. "There is something you should know," she said. "Last night, I told the elders how you stayed with me, how you helped me, and how you kept me safe and calm until the team arrived." Daniel felt his face warm a little. Anyone would have done it. She shook her head gently. "Not everyone, and not in the way you did." Before Daniel could respond, one of the elders stepped forward. Her silver hair framed her face like a soft halo, and her eyes held a depth that suggested both wisdom and kindness. "Daniel Reeve," she said calmly, "we would like to speak with you." He stood respectfully, giving Ayana a reassuring look before following the elder a few steps away. A small circle of elders formed around him, not in a threatening way, but in a thoughtful, ceremonial one. Their faces were open, their postures relaxed. Daniel sensed that whatever they planned to say came from a place of tradition, not pressure. The silver-haired elder spoke first. "In our culture, when someone saves a life in a moment of danger, their spirits become connected for a time. It is an old belief, passed down through generations. We honor the one who gives help, and we support the bond formed through that act." Daniel listened carefully, not wanting to misunderstand. The elder continued, her voice gentle. "This connection does not mean ownership. It does not force decisions. It simply means that the one who saved a life is welcomed into a role of responsibility, of support, of emotional care, of helping the person return to balance." Daniel took a quiet breath. The words were meaningful, but unfamiliar. "I want to respect your traditions," he said slowly. "But I want to make sure I'm understanding. Are you asking me to stay here?" One of the male elders shook his head. "Not to stay. To be present. To support Ayana as she heals. To walk beside her, even for a short time. This is our way of honoring the connection created through your kindness." Daniel looked over at Ayana again. She seemed both embarrassed and hopeful, her eyes searching his face for any sign of discomfort. She clearly did not want him to feel pressured. He turned back to the elders. "I'm honored," he said sincerely. "But I want to be sure Ayana is comfortable with this too." Ayana spoke before the elders could. "I am," she said softly. "But I don't want you to feel forced. Tradition should bring comfort, not confusion." Daniel smiled gently at her. "I'm not confused," he said. just surprised. I didn't expect anything like this. One of the younger elders chuckled lightly. Few people do. A soft ripple of laughter moved through the group, easing the atmosphere. Daniel relaxed a little. Sensing the sincerity behind their words, Thomas joined them shortly after, placing a respectful hand on Daniel's shoulder. You don't have to commit to anything you don't understand, he said, kindly. Take your time, ask questions. We are open to explaining everything you wish to know. 1. Daniel appreciated that deeply. I would like that, he said. I want to do the right thing. For Ayanna. And for all of you. The elders nodded with gratitude. Ayanna motioned for Daniel to sit beside her again. When he did, she hesitated for a moment before speaking. I'm sorry if this is overwhelming, she said. It's not overwhelming, Daniel assured her. Just unexpected. She laughed softly. I tried to warn you, but you didn't tell me everything, he teased lightly. Her cheeks warmed. I thought it might scare you away. It didn't, he said with a gentle smile. I'm here. They sat quietly for a moment, the breeze moving gently through the trees. Daniel looked around, noticing how peaceful the community felt. Children played nearby, families talked in small circles, and the air smelled faintly of wild herbs carried by the wind. Ayanna watched him with soft eyes. You must think this is strange. No, Daniel said softly. I think it's meaningful. You have traditions that tie people together through kindness. There's nothing strange about that. She seemed relieved by his calm words. I want you to know, she said slowly, that the tradition isn't about forcing anything. It's about honoring the connection created in a moment that could have been frightening. It's about trust. I understand, Daniel said gently. Her eyes softened. I'm glad it was you who found me, she said again. This time, with deeper emotion. Daniel felt something warm settle in his chest, a quiet awareness, something gentle but real. As the day went on, the community invited him to share in a simple meal. They offered him warm bread, fresh fruit, and herbal tea that tasted both calming and refreshing. Ayanna stayed beside him most of the time, introducing him to people with an affectionate ease that surprised them both. Some of the community members asked him about his work, curious about his life as a wilderness medic. Others thanked him quietly, their gratitude heartfelt and sincere. Daniel felt more welcome than he had expected. Even though the situation was unusual, it didn't feel heavy. It felt warm, like he had stepped into a story much larger than himself. Later, as the sun began to set, Daniel prepared to leave. Ayanna watched him with a small, hopeful smile. Will you come back tomorrow? She asked gently. Daniel nodded without hesitation. I will. Her smile grew soft and bright. Good. Before he left, Thomas approached him again. Thank you for being open, he said. Our traditions are old, but they come from a place of good intention. I can see that, Daniel replied. And I want to understand more. You will, Thomas said kindly. One step at a time. As Daniel walked toward his truck, he glanced back once more. Ayanna was still watching him, her eyes shining softly in the evening light. Their connection, whatever it would become, felt undeniable. And though Daniel didn't know it yet, this was only the beginning of the journey the elders had spoken of. A journey where two lives, once strangers, would learn how their paths had quietly begun to intertwine. Over the next few days, Daniel returned to the White Mesa community every morning, just as he had promised. Each time he arrived, Ayanna was waiting for him with a soft smile that seemed to grow warmer with every visit. She still needed help walking, but she was healing quickly and becoming stronger each day. Daniel spent much of his time sitting with her outside her home, talking with her family, and learning little pieces of their daily life. He helped her move around, stretch gently, and stay active without pushing herself too hard. Sometimes they walked slowly along the shaded side of the community, where Ayanna showed him plants she liked and stories she remembered from her childhood. At first, their conversations were simple questions about the weather or about Daniel's work. But soon, their talks became deeper and more personal. Ayanna asked him what made him choose such an unusual career. Daniel told her he had always been drawn to helping people, even when he was young. He liked the idea of offering calm in the middle of nature's surprises. Ayanna listened carefully, her eyes bright with curiosity. "You sound like someone who follows his heart," she told him one day. Daniel smiled softly. "Maybe I do. But sometimes I wonder if I should try to settle down somewhere instead of wandering from place to place." "What stops you?" she asked gently. "I don't know," he said. "Maybe I haven't found the right reason yet." To the 12th, I haven't. Ayanna looked at him quietly, her expression thoughtful. "Sometimes, reasons come when we're not looking for them." Her words stayed with Daniel long after their conversations ended. As the days passed, Daniel noticed more people watching them, not in a bad way, but with interest. Many community members smiled at him when he walked by. Some nodded warmly, as if they approved of his presence. Others whispered soft greetings and thanked him again for helping Ayanna. It was clear that they respected him. But Daniel also sensed there was something else behind their attention, something connected to the tradition the elders had mentioned. He didn't mind it at first. But midway through the week, things began to change. It started when his phone began buzzing nonstop. When he finally checked it, he saw dozens of messages, missed calls, and alerts. Friends from work, acquaintances, and even people he hadn't heard from in years were sending him the same thing: links to articles, social media posts, and flashy headlines. His heart sank as he opened one. It read, "Wilderness medic saves Apache woman tribe, says she belongs to him by sacred rule." Another headline said, "Hero or husband-to-be. Community tradition sends shockwaves." Daniel felt heat rise in his face. None of it was true, not the tone, not the claims, not the dramatic suggestions. It twisted a gentle tradition into something sensational and disrespectful. And it placed Ayanna and her community at the center of a story that wasn't theirs. He closed his phone and sat down heavily on a bench outside Ayanna's home, trying to collect his thoughts. He didn't want to alarm her, but there was no hiding the worry on his face. Ayanna stepped out with a slight limp, saw his expression, and frowned gently. "Daniel? What happened?" He showed her one of the headlines. Her eyes widened, and her breath caught slightly in her throat. She slid down to sit beside him. "This isn't right," she whispered. "They don't understand our tradition. They're making it into something it isn't." Daniel nodded. "I know. And they're making it look like your community forced something on me. Or forced something on you." Ayanna looked hurt, not angry, but deeply saddened. "This is why we try to keep our traditions private. People outside don't always understand. They turn something peaceful into something loud." He gently placed his hand on the bench near hers, close, but not touching unless she chose to. "We can fix this," he said softly. "But we have to be careful. We don't want to disrespect your people or the way they live." Ayanna nodded. "We'll talk to the elders." They walked slowly to the council area, where several elders were already gathered. They, too, had seen the headlines, and the concern on their faces mirrored Daniel's own. The silver-haired elder spoke first. "The outside world often misunderstands our traditions. They see something meaningful and turn it into spectacle." Another elder added gently, "Our people are uneasy. Not angry, just unsettled." This attention was not invited. Quote, Daniel felt a deep sense of responsibility rise in him. "I want to help," he said quietly. "The story being told is not true. I don't want anyone thinking your community is doing something strange or wrong. We know your heart," Thomas said, with a soft, steady tone. "You have honored us with your respect, but the world outside has already built its own story." Ayanna stepped closer to the council circle. "We need to speak the truth," she said. "Together. So people stop twisting this." The elders agreed to prepare a calm public statement, nothing dramatic, nothing defensive, just clarity. They thanked Daniel for bringing the issue to them before reacting on his own. As the evening approached, Daniel and Ayanna sat under a tree, both feeling a mixture of relief and frustration. Ayanna leaned her head back and let out a quiet sigh. "It feels strange," she said. "People outside know nothing about us. Yet they speak as if they do." Daniel nodded. "It's unfair, but we'll handle it together." Ayanna turned her head to look at him. Her eyes were full of gratitude and something softer. "Thank you," she said gently, "for not blaming us, for standing with us." "I care about you," Daniel said without thinking, then paused, surprised by his own honesty. I care about your comfort, and your family, and everything that matters to you." Ayanna didn't look away. Instead, she smiled a slow, warm smile that made Daniel's chest feel lighter. "I'm glad," she whispered, "because I care too." Their connection, once quiet and subtle, felt stronger than ever. But their moment of peace didn't last long. The next morning, reporters began showing up near the community entrance. They weren't allowed inside, but they lingered close enough to shout questions whenever someone passed by. Daniel stayed out of sight, not wanting to add to the attention. But he could hear bits of their voices carried on the wind. He felt a twist of frustration. "This isn't what any of us wanted." Ayanna nodded, her expression calm but firm. "We will get through this, but we need to stay patient." Later, while Daniel walked with her near the quiet side of the hill, she said something that surprised him. "You know," she began softly, "our tradition isn't just about the one who saves a life. It's also about the one whose life is saved. They must choose whether to welcome the connection or release it." Daniel stopped walking. "And what do you choose?" She looked at him, eyes deep and sincere. "I choose to welcome it," she said slowly. "Not because anyone tells me to, but because I feel something when I'm with you. Something calm, something safe." Daniel felt his heart with a gentle thud of warmth. "I feel the same," he admitted. "But I want to make sure you're not choosing out of gratitude." "I'm choosing because I want to," she said. "Not because you helped me, but because of who you are." The moment felt quiet but powerful, free of pressure, free of expectation. Just two people speaking honestly under the open sky. Still, the world outside didn't quiet down. More articles appeared. Videos. Discussions. People debated their story without knowing a single, real detail. Ayanna's younger cousins showed her a few posts, and she shook her head sadly. Daniel felt protective, not in a forceful way, but in a caring, steady way. "We'll face it," she replied gently. "Together." When the elders released their public statement the following day, many people supported it, and some of the excitement began to calm down. But Daniel knew there was still more to address, something more personal, something that would shape the direction of all their lives. Because now that the world had turned their story into something dramatic, Daniel and Ayanna had to decide for themselves what their connection truly meant, without tradition, without pressure, without the noise of outsiders. They needed to choose each other freely, or walk separate paths. And that choice was coming sooner than either of them expected. The days that followed were calmer, though the traces of unwanted attention still lingered like dust that refused to settle. Reporters eventually grew tired of waiting at the entrance of the White Mesa community, and the loud stories online slowly began to fade as new topics replaced them. Life returned to its natural rhythm, soft and steady, just the way Ayanna and her people preferred. Daniel continued to visit each day. He brought small gifts, sometimes books, herbal teas he thought Ayanna might enjoy, or simple sketches he had drawn of places they had visited together. Ayanna treasured every little gesture. She kept the sketches in a wooden box beside her bed, where she could look at them when she felt lonely or thoughtful. Her leg healed more each day. Soon she was able to walk on her own without support, though she still liked when Daniel walked beside her. Their steps naturally matched, falling into the same rhythm without effort. They often wandered the quieter paths of the community, talking about their dreams, their worries, and the things they had never shared with anyone else. One evening, as the sun softened into shades of pink and orange, Thomas invited Daniel to join the family for a meal. Daniel accepted with gratitude. The table was set outside beneath a wide tree that offered gentle shade. The breeze carried a light scent of pine, and the atmosphere felt warm and welcoming. Ayanna's mother served bread, vegetables, and a special stew that had been passed down through their family for generations. As they ate, Thomas asked Daniel about his life, where he was from, who had taught him his skills, what he hoped for the future. Daniel answered honestly, feeling strangely at home in a place he had once worried he might not belong. "You have a quiet heart," Ayanna's mother said with a thoughtful smile. "People with such hearts are rare." Daniel felt shy at the compliment. "I just try to be honest," he said. Thomas nodded. "It is good to see honesty between you and Ayanna. It brings peace." Ayanna looked down, her cheeks warm. She was happy, but she also knew the time was coming when something important needed to be decided, something that would affect not only her and Daniel, but also how their two worlds would connect. Later that night, after the meal, Daniel and Ayanna walked toward the edge of the community where the land opened into wide fields. The sky was filled with stars, bright and close, stretching across the darkness like small lanterns guiding the night. They sat together on a smooth rock, their shoulders almost touching. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. The air was calm, and silence felt comforting rather than heavy. Finally, Ayanna broke the quiet. "Do you think things will go back to normal now?" she asked, softly. Daniel took a slow breath. "Maybe. Or maybe things have changed too much." Ayanna turned her head slightly. "For better or worse?" Daniel thought about the question carefully. "For better," he said. "At least for me. Meeting you. Being here. I feel like I found something I didn't even know I was looking for." Ayanna's expression softened. "I feel the same," she whispered. But then her smile faded into a more serious look. "Daniel, the elders said something today. Something important. They said it is time for the two of us to decide whether we want to keep the bond that was formed when you helped me, or release it so that our paths go separate ways." Daniel nodded slowly. He had known this moment would come. "And what do you want?" he asked gently. Ayanna hesitated, her fingers brushing lightly over the rock beneath her. "I want us to choose freely," she said. "Not because of tradition, not because of what people said online, not because anyone expects anything. I want us to choose only if it's truly what we feel in our hearts." Daniel reached out with slow, respectful movements and placed his hand near hers without touching, giving her the space to decide. "And what does your heart say?" Ayanna looked at his hand, then at his face. Her eyes were filled with a quiet bravery. "My heart says, I don't want you to walk away," she said. "I want to see where this connection leads." Daniel felt warmth rise through him, calm and steady. "My heart says the same thing," he replied. "But I don't want to be the reason you feel tied to anything you don't want. I want us to walk forward, because we both choose it." Ayanna smiled, a gentle, glowing smile that filled the night air with warmth. "Then, we choose together." Before anything else could be said, a soft voice echoed behind them. It was Thomas. He had approached quietly, giving them space but also understanding the importance of this moment. "The council meets tonight," he said calmly. "They want to hear your choice." Daniel and Ayanna exchanged a look. Both felt nervous, but they also felt ready. They followed Thomas to the central gathering place where the elders sat in a circle beneath lanterns that glowed softly. The atmosphere was peaceful, almost sacred, but not intimidating. This was a place of clarity, not fear. The silver-haired elder spoke. "You have spent many days walking beside each other. You have faced misunderstanding from the outside world and found trust within yourselves. Now, you may choose the path forward." She looked at Ayanna first. "Child, do you choose to continue the bond created through your connection?" Ayanna lifted her chin gently. "I choose to continue it. Not because tradition tells me to, but because my heart feels calm with him. I want to know him, without fear or pressure." Then the elder turned to Daniel. "And you, Daniel Reeve? Do you choose to walk with her not as a guardian forced by custom, but as a person who offers companionship freely?" Daniel met the elder's gaze with steady eyes. "Yes," he said. "I care for her deeply. I want to support her, learn from her, and discover where our connection leads." A soft murmur of approval moved through the circle. The elders smiled, not in surprise but in joy. The silver-haired elder placed her hand over her heart. "Then, the bond is no longer tied to tradition. It is tied to choice. And choice is the strongest way two lives can join." Ayanna exhaled softly, relief and happiness washing over her. Daniel felt the same calm settle inside him, like a gentle breeze clearing the last bits of dust. The elders offered prayers for peace, balance, and understanding. Then they left the two of them alone beside the lanterns, the night glowing warmly around them. Ayanna stepped closer. "So," she said softly, "what happens now?" Daniel smiled. "Now," he said, "we build something together. Slowly, honestly, with no pressure." "That sounds perfect," Ayanna whispered. The next morning, Daniel walked with her toward the canyon where they had first met. She moved confidently now, her steps steady and strong. The place held deep meaning for both of them, not because of danger or fear, but because that was where their story had begun. They stood near the same smooth rock she had leaned against on the day of the accident. The sunlight touched the canyon walls with warm gold, just as it had before. But now, instead of uncertainty, there was peace between them. Ayanna gently touched the rock. "Everything changed here," she said. Daniel nodded. "Yes, but in a good way." She looked at him, her eyes full of quiet emotion. "Do you think we'll ever forget this place?" "Never," Daniel said with a smile. "It's where the world brought us together." They spent the rest of the day walking through the open land, talking about the future, not detailed plans, but possibilities. Daniel considered accepting a position nearby so he could stay close without rushing anything. Ayanna talked about her hopes to teach young children about nature and traditions. They laughed, dreamed, and felt the simple joy of being near each other. By evening, when the stars returned, they had already made an unspoken promise to explore their growing bond slowly and patiently. No traditions pressuring them. No outside voices telling their story. Just two hearts choosing each other freely. And that was how their connection became something real, something gentle, steady, and filled with hope. A story that didn't begin with tradition or expectation, but with trust, understanding, and the quiet realization that sometimes the person you're meant to walk beside arrives at the exact moment life needs to change. Their journey was only beginning, but it was beginning in the best way possible together.